Welcome back, everyone. I'm here. And today we're going to look at some footage that was caught on camera in the early hours of the morning that seems to show something following a janitor through a hospital hallway. It comes from a security camera and was taken in the early hours of the morning in a hospital in Lima, Peru. The camera is looking down a long, dark hallway. We can see a man walking towards us. It doesn't appear that he has any particular destination in mind. He's just sort of wandering. He walks past the camera, and then we see his shadow on the wall behind him. It's a little longer than his actual body, stretching up further than it should. But at this point, there's nothing too strange going on. People sometimes cast slightly longer shadows when they're standing still. As he continues to walk down the hallway, however, his shadow grows longer and longer until it's almost double his height. This isn't normal. Whatever's happening here, this shadow definitely isn't cast by the janitor or anything he's carrying. There's simply nothing in front of the camera or the janitor that could be creating this shadow. He stops walking, and his shadow shrinks back a little. Then he starts walking again, and it grows once more. What's really bizarre is that the shadow appears to have a head of its own. You can clearly see the top of the shadow shrinking and expanding in time with the janitor's movements, as if whatever is making it is alive and moving on its own. If we look carefully, we can also see what looks like a torso on the shadow too. Again, it seems to move independently of the janitor and his shadow, stretching and shrinking, rising and falling in ways that human anatomy simply does not allow. Now, obviously, the first thought that springs to mind is that this is some kind of ghost. There are plenty of stories about ghosts that walk the night and follow living people, usually to warn them of some impending danger or, more commonly, to drag them into the afterlife with them. There are other possibilities, however. In the description for the video, the uploader says that the hospital is full of shadow people. Perhaps this is one of them. Shadow people are beings made of pure darkness that supposedly dwell in our world, but are normally invisible to us. They can sometimes be seen at the edge of your vision or in the corner of your eye, but normally only for a split second. If you turn to look at them, they vanish. Some people believe that shadow people are evil spirits or demons that feed off human negative energy. Others think they are interdimensional beings that come from another plane of reality, of course, given that this footage was recorded inside a hospital. It's possible that the entity is simply feeding off all of the fear and sadness generated by the sick and dying patients. But what do you think? Is this just a trick of the light? Misinterpretation of the way shadows work? Or is there something else at play here? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the channel. We got lots of videos about scary things that go bump in the night, including a playlist of all of my shadow videos. So if you like this sort of thing, there's plenty more where this came from. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos. Till next time, I'm here. And remember, don't look directly at the shadow. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, and we re-gone. Take a look at some scary nursing home footage that might make you never want to work the night shift again. In 2013, a nursing home in Brazil was being investigated for mistreating its patients. The nursing staff had been accused of all sorts of horrible things, from physical abuse to emotional abuse, and even outright murder. Staff were said to be overworked and underpaid, which may have contributed to the less than stellar working environment. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. One night, the night security guard was making his rounds when he noticed something strange. He was checking out the activity monitor and saw a patient's bed being moved down the hallway by itself. Security guard went to investigate and check it out for himself. As he turns the corner, the camera cuts away, but we can hear the commotion of the bed moving, whatever is making it move, dragging it down the hallway. The noise continues for a full minute before the camera catches up to it again. It's revealed that the bed is empty. There's no one in it. The sheets are neatly tucked in and everything, but the bed is moving by itself. After this footage was released, nursing home staff claimed that the bed was likely moving because someone hadn't properly put the brakes on. However, others pointed out that it would have been impossible for someone to have left the bed unattended and moved it while not looking, because there were cameras everywhere and there would have been another staff member monitoring the patient at all times. That person could have easily been fired or disciplined. And the nursing home was already under investigation for mistreatment of patients. Do you really think they'd risk more bad publicity by moving a patient's bed without supervision? Some people commented that it almost looked like there was a pair of legs under the covers. If you look closely, there does seem to be something there, but it's most likely just a sheet bunched up and moving with the bed. A bit of clarification was provided when another security guard came onto the scene and stated that the patient in question had passed away earlier that day. However, he also said that the room was fully staffed at the time and no one had reported seeing or hearing anything unusual. So why did this ghost decide to go for a joyride at 2 a.m.? We don't know. As creepy as this video is, there's an even creepier story behind it. The same nursing home had reportedly been plagued by rumors of a ghost for years. Staff and patients alike complained of the same thing, the woman who whispers. No one ever saw the woman, but they would often hear what sounded like whispers coming from down the hallway. Some claimed that the apparition was actually trying to tell them something, but it was too quiet and too distorted to understand. Others claimed that she was simply the ghost of a former nurse who had passed away in the building. Is this just a case of an overworked and understaffed nursing home getting hit with a series of unfortunate events? A scary video that turned out to have a perfectly reasonable explanation? Or is there something supernatural going on? Let me know what you think in the comments. And now it's time for you to make a ghostly friend. Why? Because you watched the whole video. Here's your reward.
Thanks for watching, guys.
I've been your host, and we'll see you next time with another video from Looper. Hey, what do you think? Go out on a limb here and say this gas station attendant vanished into thin air. It's hard to believe, but I recently came across this surveillance footage from inside a New York gas station. It was taken in October 2018, and what you're about to see is absolutely mind-blowing. It all takes place right here at around 3:07 a.m. You can see the clerk behind the counter helping out a customer. Everything seems normal. There were no customers inside the store at the time, so this clerk was just trying to help this guy out by putting his items in a bag. When he does, something strange happens. He freezes. Looks like he's having a stroke or something. Then he just stares off into space for about 10 seconds. He doesn't respond to the customer. He doesn't respond to anything. He just kind of twitches his eyes over there. Then after about 10 seconds, he turns back around to continue helping the customer. But that's when he vanishes. It literally says on the screen that this happened on October 2018. Take a look at the timestamp. It's 3:07 a.m. The clerk was just standing there, and now he's gone. Now, watch the most amazing part. The customer is still standing there, waiting for his change or whatever. And he, too, seems to vanish. But the amazing part is that no doors opened. There's really no way that they could have left without opening a door. If you look closely, you can see that the door on the left, which leads to the outside, it's closed. If you look to the right, you can see that the door that leads to the back room is also closed. Those doors don't open up automatically. They have to be pushed open. Plus, you can see that there's nobody behind those doors. They're completely empty. So how did these two guys vanish? Where did they go? What sorcery is this? It's truly a mystery. I personally believe that this is some sort of a prank. Maybe there's a secret passageway that leads from the back of the store to somewhere else. Or maybe there's an employee break room that we're not aware of. Or maybe, just maybe, this is one of the greatest mysteries of all time. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, do me a favor and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. The security cam in this library caught something that it shouldn't have, and what it caught is going to blow your mind. Hi everyone, I'm your host, and this is our channel. A normal day at the library turned into an unbelievable situation when security cameras caught someone crawling around on the ceiling. We'll tell you everything you need to know about this story, and show you the footage that has everybody asking, how did she get up there? Jessica Smith was working the night shift at the library when she noticed something odd. She was working at the front desk and saw a shadow moving on the security camera above. At first it didn't look like much, just a small dark shape against the brighter light of the ceiling tiles. But then the form began to move again. Jessica grabbed her phone and began recording the screen so that she could capture what was happening. The strange thing was making its way slowly across the ceiling. It appeared to be a woman crawling on all fours and moving extremely slowly. The woman was upside down, hanging by her feet with her head facing the floor. It almost looked like she was trying to hide from the authorities or something. There are many different theories about why the woman was up there, but there's one thing that nobody can explain, and that's how she got up there. The library is an old building, and most of the ceilings have these large square tiles. The edges of the tiles are separated by a thin strip of space, not quite enough room for someone to fit in. And there were no ladders or other objects that could have been used to climb up there. The only access to the ceiling would have been to go through one of the many vents located throughout the ceiling. And even then, it would be nearly impossible to maneuver in such a small space without any tools. So where did the woman come from, and why was she hiding up there? Jessica wasn't sure. She continued to record the video and tried to call the police while continuing to watch the live feed from the security cameras. When the police arrived, they were shocked to see the woman still up there. They weren't prepared for such a strange situation and had to call in some extra personnel. Eventually, they were able to make their way up to the ceiling and bring the woman down. The whole situation was very embarrassing for the woman, and she began crying as soon as they approached her. She explained that she had been up there for several hours, and that she had absolutely no idea how she got there. She couldn't remember anything about the events leading up to finding herself stuck on the library ceiling. Although the woman was clearly mentally unstable, the police had to charge her with something. Since she had caused several $1,000s worth of damage to the library ceiling, they charged her with criminal mischief and took her into custody. The woman was released shortly after, and the police were left scratching their heads. This was a very strange situation, and there were more questions than answers. Why would someone do such a thing, and how did she get up there? The police never did find out exactly how she managed to crawl up onto the ceiling, and the case was eventually closed. Some people believe that the woman had help from someone else. But if that was the case, nobody ever came forward with information. Others believe that the woman had somehow taken some sort of drugs that caused her to act in such a strange manner. But once again, nobody knew for sure. As for the woman herself, she seemed to be perfectly fine after the incident and went on with her life as normal. She did, however, receive a hefty fine for the damages she caused and had to do some community service. The library also upgraded their security system and added more lighting to the parking lot. What do you think happened to the woman? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Remember to check back for more amazing videos. See you next time. The man who repeated time. A man wearing a striped shirt and a cap entered a store at exactly 8 a.m. He looked around a little, then picked up a water bottle and a pack of cigarettes. He paid for them and left the store at 8:01 a.m. The cashier at the counter was surprised by the man's behavior. It was not that he had entered the store at an odd time. It was his mannerisms that were so peculiar. The way he walked, the way he looked around, and the way he talked to the cashier was all very strange. But the most surprising thing was that the man entered the store again at exactly 9 a.m., wearing the same clothes, carrying the same bag, and doing the same exact movements as before. He became a regular at the store, coming in every single day at 8 a.m., buying the same things and leaving at 8:01 a.m. He never changed his route. He would always walk in from the main entrance, pass by the same aisle, and exit through the same door. If anyone tried to talk to him, he would just keep quiet and walk away. The employees thought he might be mentally unstable, and some thought he might be a spy. There were even rumors that he was a dangerous criminal on parole, but no one knew for sure because he never spoke to anyone. At 12 p.m. he entered the store again, but this time he did not buy anything, just walked around for a few minutes and then left. When he came back again at 1 p.m., he looked tired. So the manager decided to approach him and ask if he needed any help. The man just kept quiet and walked away. The manager let him be and thought it was probably best not to interfere. But what nobody expected was that the man would come back again at 4 p.m., and when he did, he shocked everyone. He pulled out a gun and fired 3 shots into the air. Everyone panicked and hid under the counter. When they looked up, they saw the man with the gun in his hand standing right in front of them. "Get on the ground," he yelled. "Don't move, or you'll get shot." After about 10 minutes, the police arrived and arrested the man. They found out that he was an ordinary citizen who had just lost his wife a month ago. He had been visiting the store every day because it was the last place he had seen his wife alive. He had become obsessed with the idea that his wife was still there waiting for him, and because he couldn't accept her death, he started visiting the store every hour to look for her. When he realized that she wasn't there, he became more and more agitated and eventually snapped. He didn't mean to hurt anyone, but he was so distraught over his wife's death that he couldn't control himself. Employees at the store were shocked to learn the truth. They had all assumed that the man was a dangerous criminal or a spy, but he was just a grieving husband. Although it was tragic, the story had a happy ending. The man was sent to a mental hospital for treatment, and he eventually made a full recovery. The employees at the store raised money to make a donation to the hospital in the man's name, and they never forgot the strange customer who had come in every hour for 4 hours. Hey, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. In the lobby of a residential building in Thailand, a woman is seen entering an elevator. She's smartly dressed in a black t-shirt and black pants, and appears to be in her 30s or 40s. The doors close, and the elevator begins to move up. She doesn't press any buttons, but stands patiently with her arms crossed. On the second floor, a man enters the elevator. He's also smartly dressed but appears to be much younger than the woman. As the lift continues going up, the man presses the button for the 10th floor. It's at this point that the woman does something strange. She takes 3 steps back and presses the buttons to 6 and 9. It seems random, but she follows it up by pressing the down button twice. The woman then turns around and walks into a corner of the elevator. She pulls her top over her head and hides her face. Just as the elevator reaches the 10th floor, the camera's view becomes static. We can hear the man's voice asking what's wrong with the television. The woman doesn't respond. The man exits the elevator and the doors close. But when they open again, the woman is gone. She was never seen again. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is one that has kept me up at night. It comes from a small country in Southeast Asia. But before I get into it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already, more creepypastas will be posted daily. And if you tell me in the comments, I'll try and post at least one of your suggestions every week. Also, if you enjoy reading, check out my page. The link will be in the description below. I recently posted a brand new creepypasta there, which I think you'll enjoy. But for now, let's get into the video. In October of 2016, a man got into an elevator with what he thought was a stranger. What happened next would haunt him forever. The story was posted to Reddit by a user named Copy Editor. Was later removed, but not before being archived. The following is a combination of that archive and a nearly identical story posted by a different user. One evening, the narrator was taking an elevator to his apartment on the 10th floor of a residential building in Bangkok, Thailand. On the second floor, a young woman entered the elevator. She looked to be in her mid-30s and was well-dressed. She wore a white shirt and a black skirt and stood with her back against the wall. The narrator pressed the button for the 10th floor, while the woman stood silently in the corner. When the doors opened, a man entered. He appeared to be in his 20s and was also well-dressed. The narrator made eye contact with him and gave a slight nod of acknowledgement. The man returned the gesture, and the doors closed. He asked the woman, who was still silent, where she was going. The woman replied that she was going to the 6th floor. She said nothing else throughout the ride. At the 6th floor, another man entered the elevator. He was older and less well-dressed than the previous man. When he entered, he loudly criticized the Thai government. The woman continued to stay silent. When the elevator reached the 10th floor, the old man left. The other man turned to the woman and asked her, "You okay?" She replied, "No, I'm not okay." She began to cry. The man told her that everything would be fine and that she should go to the hospital. He started to speak in a low voice and motioned with his hands for her to bend down. The woman did as she was told. The man whispered something in her ear. The woman stood back up and wiped her tears away. She thanked the man and stepped out of the elevator. She was never seen again. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more, definitely hit that subscribe button. And if you love creepypastas, check out my page. The link will be in the description. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, this is another scary story from my childhood. I grew up in a town that was very nice, quiet, and safe. You could walk around with your friends late at night and nothing would happen. There were no carjackings, no muggings, nothing like that. And this made me and my friends kind of reckless because we knew we were safe. We could stay out as late as we wanted. One of my favorite places to go at night was the local mall. It didn't really matter what time it was. If the place was open, then so were we. One night we decided to go to the mall at midnight. Most stores were closed by then, but there was still plenty to do. We went to the arcade, played some basketball, rode the escalators up and down, just having fun. At some point, I got separated from my friends. I don't know how it happened. One minute I was with them, the next I wasn't. Turned around, and they were nowhere in sight. I called their names, but they didn't answer. I was about 13 years old, and I started getting scared. I had never been alone in the mall at night. I walked around to find my friends, and as I turned the corner, I saw something sitting on a bench. I couldn't make out its shape, but it seemed to be breathing heavily. I slowly approached the bench, and as I got closer, I realized it was a child wearing a red hoodie. The child looked up at me, and I could see that he was crying. "Can you help me?" the child asked. "I'm lost." He looked to be about 6 or 7 years old. I asked him, "What's your name?" and he replied, "James." I told James that I would help him find his parents, but I had no idea where to start looking. He stood up and started walking away. "Come on," he said. "I'll lead you." We walked together for a while until we reached the entrance to the mall. It was locked. Do you know where your parents are?" I asked. "They're gone," he said. "I haven't seen them since this morning." I felt a chill run down my spine. How could a child be in the mall alone at midnight? And where were his parents? James started to walk away again, but I grabbed his hand and asked him to wait. I ran to the other entrance, but it was also locked. I ran outside and looked around for a security guard, but I couldn't see anyone. Didn't have a cell phone, so I couldn't call for help. I was desperate. Then I remembered the janitor's closet. It was near the back of the mall, and the janitor always kept his door unlocked. Maybe he could help us. As we ran toward the closet, James suddenly broke free from my grasp and ran in the opposite direction. "Come back here," I yelled, but he kept running. I chased after him. We reached the arcade, and he darted behind a game machine. "James, please come back," I said. "You can't hide here all night." I walked around the machine to get to him, but he disappeared. I thought maybe he went down one of the escalators, but when I checked, he wasn't there. I don't remember how long I spent looking for James, but eventually I gave up. I was exhausted and scared. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw the most terrifying thing. It was a security guard. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Why aren't you protecting the customers?" He stared at me for a moment, without saying a word. Then he grabbed my arm and dragged me outside. "Wait, what did I do?" I cried. "Why are you arresting me?" But he kept dragging me away. I resisted at first, but he was too strong for me. He threw me into the back of his car and sped off. When he finally let go of my arm, I ran as fast as I could. I looked back and saw them all disappear in the distance. I never saw my friends or the child in the red hoodie again. To this day, I don't know what happened to me that night. Was it a dream? I don't think so. Or was it a nightmare? Perhaps that's why I still wake up in a cold sweat sometimes, even though it was just a dream. In the latest episode of The Missing Second, the police are reviewing footage from a crime scene, and they discover that 1 second of footage is missing from the camera. During the moment that a man died, this is crazy. Let's go check out the footage. Hello everyone, I'm the host. This is a show where we take a look at real, unsolved mysteries that have occurred in the past. And we try to find some answers, or at least some theories. Today we're going to be taking a look at an episode called The Memory Stick. If you've never seen this show before, it's basically like an extra episode of CSI where they take unsolved cases and use computer forensics to see if they can find some answers. This episode first aired in 2014. The episode opens with police and forensic teams surrounding a dead body. They found a man by the name of Kenny outside of his apartment after a neighbor reported hearing gunshots. The man had been shot in the head and killed. Police are now reviewing the surveillance footage from outside of Kenny's apartment building. There are 3 cameras that cover the front of the building. So let's take a look at the footage. At 6:38 p.m., we see a white van pull up to the side of the building. The man gets out of the passenger side and walks towards the door. He rings the bell and then walks back to the van. At 6:40, the man walks back out, and this time he takes something out of his pocket and throws it away. He then walks back inside. At 6:41, a blue car pulls up and parks. A woman gets out of the driver's seat and walks towards the building. She rings the bell and then walks back to her car. Then at 6:43, the man walks back out of the building and throws something into the bushes. He then walks back inside. A minute later, at 6:44, the same man walks back out, this time carrying a rifle. He walks down the stairs, looks around, and walks away from the camera. Now the next camera picks up the same man walking down the sidewalk. He walks across the street and is now out of view, but another camera catches him walking down a different street. He's now wearing a hoodie and has a bag over his shoulder. He walks past a few cars and a person riding a bike. He then turns the corner and is out of view. It's now 6:46 and the man from the blue car is getting out of her car. She's now parked a few blocks away from the building. She walks down the street and is out of view. Then at 6:47, the man is seen walking back towards the building. He's now carrying a duffel bag. He walks past the camera without going inside the building. It looked like he opened the door to his apartment, but instead of going inside, he just stands in the doorway for a few seconds. Then at 6:49, we see the man again. He's still standing in the doorway of his apartment. A few minutes later, at 6:52, he walks back out of his apartment, goes back into his apartment, then walks back out again. He looks around and then starts walking away from the building. This is when the footage cuts out for 1 second. The next clip starts back up with him still walking away from the building. He walked about 30 feet before collapsing to the ground. When they reviewed the footage from the other cameras, they saw that no one else was around. It seemed like he had collapsed from a medical issue, so they sent his body off for an autopsy to find out what happened. The autopsy showed no signs of trauma or any medical issues that would cause him to die suddenly. Plus, they found $700 in his pocket, so there was no reason for someone to kill him. And the toxicology report showed that he didn't have any drugs or alcohol in his system. When the police searched his apartment, they found his rifle and a laptop. They were able to track the origin of the internet connection from his laptop to a public library. They tracked his cell phone signal to a mall. They also found his cell phone in a backpack outside of the mall. In the backpack, they found a hat and gloves that matched the ones that the man was wearing in the video. The police also found a bullet casing that matched the rifle in his apartment. The security footage from the mall showed the man entering the mall with 2 other people. The man was identified as Charles. The 2 others were identified as Michael and Dennis. The 3 men entered the mall together, but left separately. Michael and Dennis left the mall carrying trash bags. Dennis's DNA was found on the rifle. Dennis told the police that he met Charles online and agreed to meet him at the mall. When they met, Dennis said that Charles seemed nervous and kept asking if the police were there. Dennis said that he and Michael went to the bathroom and changed into new clothes. After they left the mall, they drove to an ATM and withdrew $700. They then drove to Charles's apartment and waited in the van until Charles came out. When he did, they gave him the money and drove him to another location. That's where Charles took these pictures of the rifle. After that, they dropped him off at his apartment and went home. Charles had taken out a life insurance policy on himself a month prior to his death. The only person who could cash out the policy was his girlfriend. The police questioned the girlfriend, and she admitted that Charles had been acting weird lately, saying that he thought the police were after him. He also said that he had made some enemies on the dark web. Charles believed that the FBI was watching him, even had a secret second apartment that he occasionally stayed at. The police searched the second apartment and found a hidden compartment with a bunch of electronics inside, including a computer and a flash drive. On the flash drive, they found pictures of Charles holding the same rifle from the video. To this day, the police don't know who the men in the video with Charles were or why he was killed. What do you think? What happened in that missing second? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. They stared straight ahead, regarding nothing in particular. The 2 eyes in the parking garage blinked in unison. It was creepy, sure, but what was even creepier was that there was no one around. They were regarding nothing in particular. I'm a reporter with a local TV station. We had gotten a call about 10:30 or so last night from a viewer who lives in an apartment building in the 600 block of West 53rd Street. She was driving home from Jualasco when she pulled into her parking garage and she noticed these 2 glowing eyes hovering at about 4 6 feet off the ground, and she said they were blinking. And she, of course, stopped and took a few pictures. You can see the eyes in the pictures here. You can see them pretty clearly. There is a dark figure in the bottom right-hand corner, but you can't really make out any details because it's so dark. But these eyes are glowing. She said she stood there for a moment and watched these eyes blinking, going back and forth. And she couldn't see any animal. There was no heat signature. There was no person. So she grabbed her phone and started recording, and she started walking closer to the eyes. And the eyes followed her as she walked. So she kept walking until she got close enough to where she could see that there didn't appear to be any person or animal there. So she called the police. Police did come out. They investigated. They found nothing. And we reached out to the Chicago Animal Care and Control, and they also kind of expressed some surprise. They said they hadn't heard of anything like this happening, and they hadn't received any other calls. This is still kind of a mystery. We would love to solve it. If you have any ideas what these eyes could be, what this could be, please let us know. You can leave a comment below, or you can reach out to us on social media. In the meantime, our viewer has posted the video online, and it's gotten quite a bit of attention. Some people saying it could be a big cat, it could be a bobcat. Bobcats have been known to, venture into more populated areas. They're typically pretty elusive, and you don't see them very often. So could it be a bobcat? Maybe. There was also some speculation could be a bird. I don't know if there's any birds that have, yellow eyes that hover around. But again, no one seems to have any answers. We will continue to investigate, and we will follow up. In the meantime, if you have any information, please contact us. If you want to see more from our team, you can always reach us on social media, or you can go to our website, where you can find more of our fact-driven, unbiased coverage. Thanks for watching. Hey there, welcome to my channel. I'm your host. And today we have an interesting video for you. Something that was recorded by a security camera. At first glance, it doesn't seem like anything out of the ordinary is going on, but if you look closely at the video, there is a strange phenomenon taking place. The clip is from a hotel bathroom and shows a woman standing in front of the sink, brushing her hair. Her action is mimicked by her reflection in the mirror, but with a slight delay. It almost seems as if the woman in the mirror is controlling the actions of the real woman. At first, the woman brushes her hair while standing still. But after a few seconds, she leans over the sink to wash her hands. And just as she begins to do so, her reflection in the mirror also begins to lean over the sink. But the reflection does so before the real woman. How can this be? Is the reflection moving on its own, or is there some other explanation for what's happening here? For a few seconds, the reflection appears to stand still while the real woman washes her hands. Then the reflection begins to move again, this time mimicking the real woman's movements more closely. It looks like the reflection is now brushing its hair. This goes on for a bit, with the reflection always appearing to be just a few seconds ahead of the real woman. This clip is actually a great example of something called the mirror neuron system in action. The mirror neuron system is a group of neurons in the brain that are activated both when we perform an action, ourselves, and when we see someone else performing that same action. For example, if I were to show you a video of someone reaching out to grab an object to the mirror, neuron system in your brain would be activated, even though you are not reaching out to grab an object yourself. The same would be true if you saw someone brushing their hair or washing their hands. Your brain would simulate the action as if you were doing it yourself. So what's happening in this video is that the woman is seeing the actions of her own reflection, and her brain is simulating those actions through the mirror neuron system. This causes her to unconsciously mimic the actions of her reflection, even though she isn't consciously trying to do so. But wait, there's more. There is another strange thing happening in this video as well. In addition to the mirror neuron system, our brains also have something called the rubber hand illusion. This is an interesting phenomenon that occurs when we see a rubber hand or a robotic arm moving in a way that mimics our own hand or arm. We have a tendency to think that the rubber hand or robotic arm is actually our own hand or arm, even though we know it's not. If I were to show you a video of a rubber hand being moved in a certain way, your brain would probably simulate the movement of the rubber hand, as if it were your own hand. And then, because your brain would be expecting your hand to move in that way, your actual hand might start moving as well. This is essentially what's happening in this video. The woman is seeing the actions of her reflection, and because of the rubber hand illusion, her brain is simulating those actions as if they were her own. This causes her to unconsciously mimic the actions of her reflection, even though she isn't consciously trying to do so. Now, it's important to note that these are just theories, and we can't say for sure what's happening in this woman's brain, but it's a pretty safe bet that these two phenomena are at least partially responsible for what we're seeing in this video. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.